Hi, my name is Sheree Schattenmann, and I'm a fabric store owner, a pattern designer, and a sewing teacher. And today I'm here to talk to you about actually something pretty straightforward and fun, is how to use your decorative stitches that come on the sewing machine to embellish your handmade projects as well as store-bought items. If we look here, I'd like to show you here's a play cube that I made, and you can see here I used one of the decorative stitches, the blanket stitch off the machine. Totally looks like hand stitching, all done on the machine, really quick and easy. Same thing here where I've embellished these diapers that you could use for burp cloths, just using scrap fabrics from my stash, stitching them down with this pretty decorative stitch. Here's a blanket that I made where, again, instead of just doing, like everyone does, a straight stitch around the edge, I decided to use this fun loopy decorative stitch because it totally picks up the design of the fabric here. And then here are some store-bought items that I've embellished with some with fabric scraps and decorative stitching, and some just with decorative stitching. This cute little onesie here, I just cut out a patch of some scrap fabric, but you can see, again, instead of using the straight stitch, I went around the edge with a fun star stitch. Here I used an heirloom stitch actually, which I was trying to pick up the pattern of the crocodile teeth, and same thing with the bib, went back to blanket stitch. And then here's a fun project. This is just a cotton romper for a baby girl, plain pink. I just added a sweet little scroll floral decorative stitch here using the machine. And so, like I said, a lot of the sewing machines today come with tons of decorative stitches already preloaded on them. And it's a neat thing to do when you get your machine, if you already have one and you've never used your decorative stitches. Just get out a plain piece of scrap cloth fabric and just go through and, stitch all your different stitches down so you create kind of a stitch library. So if you're in the middle of working on a project, you can just refer to that. You already know what it's going to look like. And if you look closely here, I've just gone through with a couple of my favorites. Again, here's blanket stitch just with the regular machine settings. And here's the exact same stitch, but I've just increased the stitch length and the stitch width. So I've opened that stitch up, and you want to play around with things like that depending on the scale of the project you're working on. Same thing here with the scallop edge. It has kind of a different look when it's more spread out. And the star stitch here. And then, some machines really come with quite some fancy stitches already preloaded on them. Here's one where it's a neat feature. Often you can actually build your own stitches. So here I've selected 2 different stitches and linked them together to create my own new stitch. And same thing here, I linked together actually 3 different stitches and created my own little stitch here. A lot of them come with the alphabet also preloaded. So you can see here I made a couple tags that would be fun to sew into your projects as well. So now I'm just going to demonstrate this process here on the machine. And I've already made a heart applique, and I've stitched that down with star stitch. And now I'm just going to go down one of the side edges here just to demonstrate setting it up on the machine. So I'm set up right now for straight stitch, so I'm going to go and I'm going to select the stitch that I want to use, which is this star pattern here. And I'm going to increase my stitch length, and I'm just maxing it out for this machine. And you can see here that it's telling me to use foot in, which I've actually already preloaded here on the sewing machine. And I'm literally just going to sew just as I would if I were doing a straight stitch. The machine does all the work. I'm just going to turn this up a little bit. I'm just going to stitch a little bit of this just so you can see it. Adds such a wonderful touch to add to your sewing projects, but especially for things, if you're picking up just plain pre-made items, you can totally customize it simply by embellishing it with decorative stitching. And especially for baby items, there's so many of those things that you want to make but you don't have the time to make. Well, it's easy enough to pick it up pre-made and add that special touch yourself. It's still a handmade gift made with love. And You can see here, I just used a solid pink thread, but there's so many wonderful threads out on the market. You could envision, doing this with a variegated thread or a metallic thread. Really, the sky's the limit. It's up to you. So pick a thread that's going to accent your project and start playing around with your decorative stitches on your machine. And I hope you'll make something fun for the baby in your life.